In the last class, we had discussed about exception handling, and I think we did one remaining program which we had. In this class, I would like to demonstrate whatever we saw in the last class with exception handling and how .NET or in Visual Studio you handle exceptions, and how it is effective in debugging a particular program. We are going to see that now in this particular program. Now, I'm not going to take a complicated program. I'm going to take a simple program so that it is easy for us to focus on the exception handling, not the program itself. Okay, in order to take that, I'll just take a simple program like say adding two numbers. Okay, let me just do a program which will quickly add two numbers, and let's see what are the possible problems that simple program can have. So let me begin. Let me start with, let me ask the user to enter first number. Okay, let me keep it in the same line, not in the second line. Just say write, because anyway I'm going to write read line. So let me create an integer. Let's name it as num1 is equal to console.readline. Now please note, readline method normally returns a string. Okay, I hope the code is, I mean the constructor or the description all are clear there. Okay, read line reads the next line of characters from the standard input stream. That's the description, and it returns a string. You are trying to store it in a int. So this is something which is there in every programming language. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to convert that or parse that. Okay, I'm going to use two things. Number one, in the first line, I'm going to use the traditional way what we have been working is int.parse. Okay, please remember in Java it is not possible. In Java you write integer.parsent. You can't call the data type and then ask it to do this thing. Okay, so why is C# different? Because C# has a concept called boxing and unboxing. Okay, so this is a simple example where you use a data type as a primitive data type like a class itself. Okay, so this is in .parse. This is one way of doing it. Let me do the second number in a different way. Okay, let me just say enter second number, but this time taking the second number, I'm not going to use this format. I'm going to use a different format. Okay, there is an inbuilt class called convert. So you can see that there's a class called convert. I can call that class and then say dot to what. Okay, so if you see that there are a lot of things available there. Okay, the starred ones are intelligence suggestions. Okay, here we don't call it as intelligent, we call it as IntelliSense. Okay, it's IntelliCode suggestion based on this context, because you're trying to assign it to an integer. It's giving you the right one to use that data type. So it's saying 2 × 32. Let's just have a glance of what are the other things available. If I call convert dot, okay, you can convert whatever you want. Okay, plus it should be compatible. You can convert it into any of these data types which are available. Okay, so I hope you know what's uint 32, uint 64. Whichever starts is called an unsigned integer, which will store negative. Sorry, it cannot store negative values, only positive. Int can store negative and positive values. Okay, so remember that. So let me just take 2int32 whatever the user is entering. Okay, so I'm going to say console.readline. This is another way of writing the same code what I've written here. Line 10 and line 12, if you see, both are exactly the same thing. First one, you're using a parse. Okay, if you ask me what is the difference much, okay, the first thing is that this is specific to int. Okay, you're calling the data type and then telling it to parse, but here you're calling a class called convert and then converting it into integer. Okay, the basic difference here is that here if it is not possible to convert, it returns a null. Okay, please note, if it is not possible to return, it will throw an exception, but here it will just convert. If it cannot convert, it will just return null back to it, because this is a class, this is a data type. Okay, so anyway, I've taken two numbers from the user. The next thing is very simple. I'm going to create int sum is equal to num1 plus num2. I think that's enough. Let me just print it out. So let me say console.writeLine. I'm going to say the sum of. Okay, normally I can write how I like write in Java. I can just put plus num1. This is also fine, but I'm just going to follow the other way. I'm going to say the sum of argument of 0 and argument of 1 is argument of 2. And I need to pass 3 arguments now. What are the 3 arguments? Num1, num2, and sum. Okay, this is a simple program. I'm not going to bother about the program itself, but then I'm going to say in this simple program of adding two numbers, where does exception handling come into picture? Okay, now imagine that I'm giving this to a normal user, a lay person, okay, who's not into computer science, but then I'm just telling them to run this program and see the output. So first thing, I'm going to just run the program as it is. And please note, when I run the program first time, I'm going to give proper inputs. Okay, so I wanted to just see that what happens if he gives the proper input. Let me just say if 20 and 25. Okay, what is the output I'm expecting? The sum of 20 and 25 is 45. This is a regular way. So you give any number as first number and second number, and I get the output. Simple. That's it. Okay, so now imagine from a lay person's view. Okay, let's see that what if a normal person runs a program, but this time you have put a question. The command prompt just asks enter first number. So I'm going to just assume that the number what you're asking is the number which I understand. All right, so let's say that I put 2.5. Okay, I hope you know where I'm going with this. Okay, but just say that I'm putting 2.5. According to us, it's a normal number. It's a proper number. It's not having two decimal digits. It's just decimal symbol. It's just having 1 point. This is a valid number actually. But only thing is, as a programmer, you know this is not an integer. But as a system, as a user, you don't understand what is integer and what is a float and what is a boolean and what is decimal. All these things are only programming words. But in real world, this 2.5 is a number. Okay, and it is okay, it's accepted everywhere. But then when I press enter, please note, you can see the code also simultaneously. You are trying to parse whatever the user has entered into an integer and store it into num1. But when you try to parse something which has a dot in it, it is not possible to convert this. And did you tell what to do if it's not possible to convert? No, nothing has been instructed. So let's see what happens while I'm working with Visual Studio. Please note, this is Visual Studio's way of executing. In Java or any other IDE, you don't get this much of a detailed view, and you don't have so much control over the program like any other language. Here, it has more control over the program flow. Now, when I press enter, normally I expect in Java, what I would see is I would see just stack trace in the command prompt, and then the program would have come out. That's all. But here, it is not going to be like that. It's going to be a little bit more different. So I'm going to press enter. You see that the program, please note, command prompt is still running. Okay, it's exception handling, so it stopped the command prompt and it came back to your window, which is called the Visual Studio's window. And here I wanted to see what is thrown here. I hope this is visible. I'll just hide other things. Okay, so here in this line, it highlights the line where you have a problem, which line caused that problem, and it is telling what is the exception. I hope the screen is visible. Let me just zoom in. So this is the line which is throwing the error, because the first number what I entered was 2.5, and you took that number and you tried to parse it and store it in an int called num1. At that time, a problem or exception happened. That exception is called system.format exception. I hope you can follow. This will be the same input message or the message which is given by this particular exception. Input string was not in a correct format. That's called format exception. So this is the problem. Now in Visual Studio, whenever you get an error, okay, or an exception, not an error, error will be thrown with the underlined red underline. You will understand that is an error. But then exception will come like this. Almost all exceptions would have the same idea in .NET, in Visual Studio. Okay, so what happens is that when a problem happens, it will come like this. You can click on view details and you see the entire detail or the exception message of that particular, or the stack trace, okay, of the entire exception which has just occurred. It's an object, so it has name value pairs. You have a lot of things in that object. Okay, it has data, it has result, it has inner exception, it has a message, it has a source, it has a stack trace. Okay, like that, lot of things are available. If you want, you can see them also. What are the, this is a stack trace what you got at this particular time. Okay, so parse in 32, and I got a problem with that. I showed the line number and I came out. Okay, this is how exception handling is given in .NET. It's a very, very sophisticated way of handling exceptions. Okay, so now you see that this is the exception. What am I supposed to do? All right, so it will not tell what you're supposed to do, but it will just tell you that this is the exception, but it is not telling me what exactly. It's just saying it's not a correct format. That's all. Okay, how to fix it, I'm not sure, but let me just try it once again. So the program has to be stopped anyway. It cannot continue there. So let me just run the program, and now imagine a person thinks that number means any way I can enter. Let's say I enter 20. This is a number according to me. When I read that, I know it's 20. You asked a number, I gave 20. So let's see what happens. Again, format exception. Okay, please note there is no big difference between what I entered in the last time and this time. Last time I entered an actual number but with decimal digits. Here I did not enter a number, I entered a full string and I'm trying to parse it into a number, and the exception is coming like this. Okay, system dot format exception. When you try to convert a particular number into a particular data type, okay, let's say for example string. Right now I'm getting a string from the user input, that is console.readline. I'm trying to parse that into a number. If it is not possible by the system, then it is not possible to convert the format in which you have given into an integer. That's why it's format exception. Okay, please note it is just format exception. Now let me just stop this and let me continue with the next run. Okay, this time I'm going to do a different, I'm going to raise a different exception. Okay, you know the program works fine because the first time I ran, I gave a proper number and it was working. Now this time what I'm going to give is, I'm going to give a number. So you said I cannot enter words in string, which means I can't enter the input in words. Also, I cannot enter with the decimal numbers. Okay, fine. Let me enter a number. All right, this is a number which I have entered. Okay, please note it follows whatever you had told with respect to the previous two exceptions. There are no decimal digits, there are no words, it's proper numbers, all are numbers. Okay, and let me just press enter. Let's see what happens. Okay, I hope you can predict what is the problem if I enter this right now. Okay, can you guess what might be the exception if I run this number? Anyone? If I run this number, what might be the exception? Overflow. Perfect. Okay, I hope you follow. Let me just press enter and let's see what happens here. Okay, you can see the error. Overflow exception. The value is either too large or too small for an int32. The system is not clear because overflow exception can happen if you gave a positive number. For example, in the first class when we took C# introduction, I told that int can store this number to this number. Int can store minus negative values also. So I'll say minus this particular number to plus this particular number. Now, what if I gave a number which is above than that plus limit and below than that minus limit? Okay, overflow. It is either way overflow, but then it is not, this exception is very standard. It's an inbuilt exception just saying that the value was either too large or too small for an int32. I hope this is clear. So this is an overflow exception. Please note, both are exception for us, but everything has its own way of handling. Okay, so this is an overflow exception. You can see the details of how it happened. Same thing. All right, so there's no much point for us here, but you'll understand slowly how to use this window. I'll take that in the next class or something. But anyway, just see that this is what has happened. Now, what if I entered a number which is exactly the same as the maximum size limit of an integer? Okay, that was also a problem. For example, imagine it's not the correct number, I don't remember the exact number, but imagine that 1 lakh is the maximum you can enter inside an integer. All right, so what if I give the first number as 1 lakh? It will work fine. But what if I give the second number also as 1 lakh? What happens then? Again, overflow, because in the sum you're trying to add these two integers and then put it inside an int. That is also a possible exception. Okay, so there are different types of exceptions possible in a simple program like adding two numbers. Then you can imagine what are the possible issues which can happen when you try to run a problem or a program which takes a lot of inputs from the user and it is real world. Okay, here this is just a simple thing. You can understand what are the issues, you can fix it however you want. You can even rerun the program once again by putting it in a loop or something like that. Okay, but idea is still the same. I just want you to understand that exception handling is not important while you're working in the IDE. But when you are trying to put it towards the user, then it is very, very essential that you need to put exception handling. Now, for respect to, I mean, if you remember the Android part of it, I've never used try catch unless it is absolutely required, and the system demands try catch. I've not used try catch. The reason is because I would like to see the error in red color. The exception would be highlighted in red. But if you have used try catch, if you see that the exception message will be thrown in blue color, it is not like a big problem because the problem or the program will still continue executing even if the exception, because exception handling will gracefully continue with the remaining part of the program if only that part doesn't work. Okay, so that is exception handling's benefit. So remember that. Now let me just apply exception handling here. How do I apply exception handling to this particular program? So you know the syntax. Okay, let me just use that. I'll just say try catch. Okay, so I need to put a try block and a catch block. So I'm going to use the inbuilt thing. Please note here, this is what I get as a snippet. I hope you understood how I gave that. I just put try and I tapped tab twice. Okay, you can see that tab twice to insert the try snippet. So I've just put tab twice and I got this try snippet. If you see the snippet here, yesterday some of you had this confusion saying that this is an error if there is no object given here. Please note this is just the class name exception. I've just left it like that and I can continue writing code. Okay, let me just keep this as my try catch and I'll cut this entire code which is there, what I'm trying to do inside the try. That's all. And in the catch, I need to put something. Now, please note, I've not created an object of exception here. I hope try catch I need not explain more, but then let's see try this block of code, catch exception. I've not given an object name here. So what should I do? Is it possible for me to call this exceptions message here? No, but you can write a general message. Say like, for example, I'm going to write console.writeLine some exception happen. I'm not sure what happened, so I can just say try again if I'm not sure what exception is happening. Okay, I don't want to put a message to the user. I would just say some exception happened. That's it. Let me run the program now and let me bring that same issue what we had faced in the last time. Let me just put 2.5, something like that. Okay, please note now it is not throwing an exception. It is not coming back to Visual Studio. It is still running in my program, but only thing is it's just saying some exception happened. Try again. But imagine I don't want that, and as a developer I can understand what is writing. So as long as I'm in developing, I can just write get the exceptions message and put it here, not this message. So for that I need an object. If you need an object, which means see in this part I just have a class. I'm not calling it here inside the catch block, so I need not even instantiate an object of exception. But if I want to take some information from there, I need to create an object. So now exception space E or EX, whatever you want to keep it as. Okay, this is the object of exception class. Let me use it here. I'll call that EX object and then say dot message. It gets a message that describes the current exception. I'll just get the message and print it out. Okay, please note now I've handled exception, but the message will be something which is straightforward, like how we got right now in the IDE. I'll get it here in the console. Let me just do that once again. I'm going to put 2.5. You see that input string was not in a correct format and it came out of the program. All right, this is 1. Let me run it again. Let me give a bigger number. The value was either too large or too small. Please note this are all are technical terms and it is given to the user. That is not what we are expecting. So what should I do? Okay, so what I should do is I should predict what type of exceptions might happen. Right now when I run the program, I know there are two types of exceptions. One is format, number two is overflow. So the first problem I normally faced was a format exception. So let me just write one more catch block. Please note I'm making a mistake, but anyway, I hope you understood that what mistake I'm making. So I'm just saying catch and I'm going to say format exception also. Okay, I'm not going to create an object. I'm just going to call format exception. All right, so I just said you can have multiple catch blocks, by the way. I hope you know that. So when I take multiple catch blocks, you see that this is an exception. Then I put format exception and there is an error. This error is not because I did not give an object here after this. Okay, it's not that. That's what most of you thought yesterday, but that's not the exception. I'll just move my mouse over there and then you can go and see the exception message. I hope it is visible. You can see the last line, ignore the first line. A previous catch clause already catches all exceptions of this or of a super type called exception. Okay, which means a previous catch clause which is there on top already catches whatever this format exception can catch or above that. Okay, so it's the hierarchy is wrong. That's what it's trying to tell you. So what should I do to fix this? You should obviously put this catch block above the base class. Okay, this is the base class of all exceptions. This can never be on the top. If there are multiple catch blocks, this must be the last catch block possible. Okay, please remember that one. Now, one more thing I'm going to do here is if I want to get the message from format exception, I can do it, or I can also put my own message. So I'll just say format console.write line. You can put whatever message which the user you feel that the user will understand. Okay, so I'll just say please enter only valid whole numbers, whatever message you want to give. Okay, that it's up to the documentation team of your system. Okay, so you can just decide what message you're going to put the user so that the user will understand. So if I enter 2.5, I'll get please enter only valid whole numbers, which means without decimal digits. So you understand whole numbers are like that. And then what if I enter ONE1 and press enter again? It'll say please enter only valid whole numbers. All right, so that's it. I'm not taking that object of format exception here, so I did not even create that object if I'm not using it. Okay, this is the exception which was caught in format. One more thing I'm going to do is catch overflow. Let me write overflow exception. Okay, and this time what should I write? Okay, that again I'm not going to use the method which is there. Okay, the number entered is too large. That I can just say the number you have entered is too large. Okay, I can just say this way, and so that it's a clear cut message, not like crashing my program. But what if it is none of these two messages? If it is some other exception which you did not predict, then this catch block will catch it anyway. Okay, whatever else is there will be caught by this catch block. Please understand that. Okay, this is not something you should ignore, but you should always put it at the bottom of your program because of your try catch, because this is something which you are not expecting. Imagine I cut this out and I got memory overflow exception or a memory out of memory exception. What happens? My program will crash. But if I keep this catch block there, whatever exception might happen, I will get the message, even though it's not understandable for the user, but I will understand that the program has not crashed. Rather, it told me what is the exception and gracefully came out of the program. That is the idea what we want to focus here. Okay. Now, in the meantime, let me also see the hierarchy of some other classes also we have given. I'm going to just change the exception name. Okay, I'm going to put divide by 0 here, even though I'm not expecting, I'm just trying to show you the error. Divide by 0 exception. Below that, I'm going to put arithmetic exception. Okay, now these two are children or child classes of the exception class. So this hierarchy is not a problem here, but this is the super class of all these exceptions. All right, so you should always keep it like this. If the catch block is at the bottom, there is no other issues. But if you reverse it, it might be a problem. If I put the catch block on top, then this is not going to catch the remaining two here. Okay, so please understand that. I'll just cut this and put it on top of catch. Still, it would not, because catch is the highest or the base class for all your exceptions. I hope this is clear. Okay, let me just change it back to format exception and overflow exception. That are two things which I'm predicting which will happen here in this particular program. So I've got this ready. Now let me run the program and check. Okay, so here the first thing I'm going to enter is, let's say if I enter 2.5. all right, it says please enter only valid whole numbers, and it came out of the program gracefully. It did not crash my application or anything like that. Okay, now one more thing let me do. Let me just try to enter a bigger number. The number you have entered is too large. That's all. No crashing of the program. Okay, so remember this. Now, what if I run the program without the help of Visual Studio? Okay, what if I run my program without Visual Studio support? Is it possible for this try? I mean, without try catch, I'll try. Okay, so let me just cut this program out. Only the block of this code, I'll just put it outside. I'll comment the entire try catch what we have written so far. Okay, so now if I run the program is running without try catch. Please understand that. Let me run the program so that the program would be compiled into an exe. You remember that, right? So let me just run. It works properly if I give proper numbers. Now I would like to go to that place where this exe file is located. Let me open that file in File Explorer. And let me go and find the exe file of this particular program. It's there in bin. I hope you remember the first class. I opened the bin folder in debug in the apps. Okay, here you have your project name.exe. My project name is exception handling. So you have exception handling.exe. Let me just double click on it and run on it. Okay, you can run it now. Now you see that the program is running. Okay, let me enter 2.5. You see, this is what happens. Unhandled exception. It is throwing a big this one, and since it's .NET Core, it is not showing more applications. It's just throwing that, and it crashed. I did not stop it. Okay, let me just run it once again. I'm opening it here. Let me put a number which is not a number according to the system. I've not handled exception here in this exe that I've commented out. So now exception handling is not there. What happens if I run now? The program crashes because it doesn't know what to do and then closes itself. Okay, by looking at those big words, I am not able to understand what exactly happened. Okay, even if I'm a programmer, I can follow what it is doing, but as a normal user, it's not easy for me to find out what was the mistake in that particular program, and I cannot change it also because already I got the exe file. I'll not be able to change it. I hope this is clear. But what if I put that all back? If I put everything inside the try catch once again, and then let me run it again. Okay, so now, okay, here this program is working. Let me go out. Okay, now I want you to find that since I was using .NET Core, I didn't write console.read key anywhere, which means I did not wait for ch. Okay, next ch. I did not waited for that so far in any program because it's .NET Core application. If it is .NET Framework application, I would not have that message after the running. You can see that after I run the program using Visual Studio, when I run the program, okay, after my inputs are done, you see there is one more thing here. Okay, this is because it's .NET Core. If I changed it to .NET Framework, this would not come. You will have to write console.read key because this is to automatically close the console when the debugging stops. Okay, so that's what we have written, but let me just go back to that folder and find out whether it works as I expect. So I'll just put proper numbers first. You see, it does not stop. I gave proper numbers, but it did not stop and show me what is the exception. So let me just do last is console.read key. I'll just say read key. That's enough. Now I'll just click on build so that the exe file will be built and kept there. I don't want to run it from Visual Studio. I would like to run it from the folder. So now let me run the exe file. 25 and 2 is 27, and it is waiting for your key to go to the next line. Okay, so let me just click on OK and it goes off. So now let me make exception problem here. So let me just put 2.5 and press enter. You see that please enter only valid numbers, and it is waiting for your input. When you give that, it goes off. So it's clear how the system works with exception handling. Okay, and the hierarchy of exception. That's what we saw in the last class. And last thing before we wind up for today is I want to take two more things. One is to create your own exception. Number two is something called as breakpoints. Okay, let me show that to you shortly. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create my own exception. This is a class, right? So I can create my own exception with respect to C# or any other language also has your own exception. So let me just come out of this class called program. Okay, this is the program class. So let me come out of it and create my own class. Okay, so let me just name as I gave in the program yesterday. I'll just say my own exception. Okay, I'm going to create my own exception class. It extends from exception as the main class. I hope this code is clear. Okay, I'm creating my own exception class which extends or inherits from the base class called exception. Okay, so this is one. Now let me just create a simple constructor. So I'll say public my own exception, and I need to pass a string called message, okay, which extends from the base. I hope you can refer to the yesterday's PPT. For this, I'll say base of that message. This is also this is the syntax of creating your own exception. That's all. Okay, and you can decide when this exception will be called based on the conditions what you pass. Okay, let me just write console.writeLine. I'll just say my own exception. You can call it however you want, but you cannot use any inbuilt exception names. Okay, you should create your own names. So let me just, I've created an exception here. That's all. Now all I need to do is you cannot use catch block and call it just like that, but then you need to give a condition, right, for that particular thing. So let me throw it. So let's say that if the user enters a number, I'm going to say if num1 is greater than, let's say, 50,000. Okay, if the number is greater than 50,000, then I want you to throw, instead of this one, I want you to throw my own exception. Okay, and if you call that my own exception, you also need to pass an object of that you need to pass an object, and you need to pass a message also to that particular exception of this particular object. So I'll just say throw my own exception, and the message would be to say the number cannot be more than 50,000. Okay, and the error is because it's a class, you cannot call it directly, you have used it like a method. So let me just say new. Done. Okay, this is you are creating your own exception, and I've just said if the number is greater than 50,000, then I'm going to throw my own exception, because 50,000 is allowed by an integer, but I'm going to say if it is greater than 50,000, then throw your own exception saying the number cannot be more than 50,000. I'll pass that message also. This will be my message anyway there. Then I'll be passing one more message as this is the base message which is printed anyway. This is the message I'm passing to you as a constructor. Let me run the program and check what happens. And the first number I'm going to give 50,000, let's say 5 lakh. So it's above 50,000. I'm going to just press enter. You see that you can see the output. What is happening there is first I get the message which is there in my own exceptions base message, and then you get the message which the user has passed. You said the number cannot be more than 50,000. Okay, this is your own exception. You can create like this how many ever exceptions you want, but it only works within your program. Okay, you cannot reuse it, or you can reuse it provided you convert it into a DLL and pass it to somebody else. Otherwise, this exception which I just created only exists within my application. So this is called an application exception. But this exception, what you see are system exceptions, which means it's available for everybody all over the world. But this is available only within my particular application. So this is an application exception. This is a system exception. I hope this is clear. Okay, these are exception handling in C#. Now, before we stop, we need to have one more thing in .NET. It's very, very essential and handy tool. That is, please note here, this is a simple program, so that might make not much of an issue, but then think of a larger program. Okay, I just want you to remember how we did Android debugging. Okay, if you remember, whenever most of you, when you brought your projects and try to find out what is the mistake and where the mistake is, the first thing we would have done is to put logs everywhere. Okay, just remember what we had done. We had to put logs till a particular, you know that the program will work till a particular location. So you will put log before and after that and see where the error actually happens and where till which line the program executes properly or not. Here in .NET, you have a different way of monitoring or finding out till what the program is working and till that program, how your program has been structured or stored in memory. I'm going to give a simple example. This program, I would like to stop it irrespective of whether it is working or not. I want to see what is my program structure in this particular line. Okay, by this particular line, what would have happened? By this particular line, I would have got number 1 and number 2 in the value would have come from number 1 and number 2. I would take that and then store it in sum. Okay, after this line only the sum will be calculated, not in this line. So I want to apply a breakpoint. Okay, it's called a breakpoint. You can apply that. Please note in the same line on the right corner. Okay, I'm going to just click here. I hope you can see that small dot, red color dot here. Okay, I have introduced a breakpoint in this particular line. Okay, you can just click on it to make it go away. This is just like this. All right, please note where the line numbers are here, right next to that, there's a small gray space here. I want you to just click on that and then try. For example, here this line, I would like to break this program at this particular line. Whether the program runs successfully, even if the program runs successfully, I would like you to stop at this particular junction. So let me just run the program now. I'm not going to make any exception problems. I'm going to just give proper numbers. Let me say 25 and 25. I'm going to press enter. Please note till what line I have not kept the breakpoint is this line. If I press enter, it will be stored into num2. When it comes to the line number 19, it should break is what I've written. So I'll just press enter. You see the program has stopped. You can see that the word continue comes here, and right now I am in the breakpoint. You can see the arrow mark coming here. Okay, so this is the next statement which will be executed. I hope you can read that. Okay, this is the next statement that will be executed. To change which statement is executed next, drag the arrow. Okay, so but anyway, right now what happens? Okay, till now what you have done in the program, you can see that also very clearly here. I think you can see something called autos. All right, see this. There is a variable called num1. It has the value of 25. There is another variable called num2, which again has a value of 25. Sum is another integer variable which you have instantiated, but you have not assigned because it is still 0, because you have not crossed that line. Okay, once you cross that line, that int sum would become 50. Okay, so you can continue, or you can break the program there itself. This point here, okay, by the time, so when a program crashes, when you, this is not relevant when you are doing adding two numbers, okay, but then imagine if you are writing a huge program in which you don't know where the problem starts or where the exception is coming from, but till what point is the program working perfectly, I can use this. Now if you see, when I broke the program right now, and if I move my mouse over the variables which you have created, you can see that the system shows what what variable is, what value is stored in that particular variable. You can see that num has 25 in it. This num1 has 25 in it. Okay, so you can just move your mouse and see what each and everything holds. Right now there are only variables as num1 and num2, but this will be very handy when you write larger programs. Okay, so I think you got the idea of a breakpoint. This can be introduced any number of times in a program. This is not going to stop your program. This is only available during debugging. You can continue with the program. Just click on continue, and the program will continue and get the output. And when the program has finished the output also, the program is still running. So you can move your mouse over that particular thing. And now you see that there's no much data available because it's just showing the variable names. But earlier when I broke the program while it was running, okay, it was showing what value is stored in each and everything. This is introducing a breakpoint into the program. I hope this is clear. I think with this we will stop for today. If you have any questions, please do ask. Otherwise, please wait till I take the attendance and then we can stop.